So tonight I'm going to show you some models that I've had that have come in from a company which I've bought them from called, and I shall just fire out the website so we can see it, Desktop Raspberry. Here it is. They're called Nuclear Shrimp Games, and they have some 6mm models, 15mm models. They're based in Greece and in the EU, and fantastically sharp resin models. So that's what I've got here, which I'm just going to do like a show and tell. I've only had them arrive this week, and it's a bit hot tonight, so I don't want to spend a huge amount of time under these lights melting away. But that's what they are. 6mm, which you could say, you know, if you're an Epic 40k fan, they're kind of epic scale. If you're a Battletech player, they're kind of the same sort of scale as the Battletech models as well. So you can sort of mix them in and use them in any game you like, really. So they're not particularly set to a certain game. So what I've got is some really sort of super close-ups, which I'll do. And I'll start with these UEF Heavy Hulk battle suits, which you get 2 in a pack, which I think is really reasonably priced when you see them. Actually, they're nice little models and very sharp. So I'll show you the website for them. And here it loads up. So you can see they're kind of a walker. They have they're heavy battle suits, so they could have a figure inside there, couldn't they? Probably a crew of 1. Or they could be crewless, couldn't they, if they had some sort of AI in there too. And so what do they look like in the flesh? So I've got the ability through the power of the internet to show you my desktop, which is a bit untidy, but here it is. They're quite small, the 6mm scale ones. And I'm just experimenting, trying to get close-ups working here. So like I've got this close-up view. Oh, that's the Raspberry Pi. Back to their desktop. And then I'll show you my Logitech close-up. There it is. So if I bring my sort of finger in there, you can just see how small a scale it is. And there's a very minor amount of flash on there. And they have like a sort of short-range missile system there. You can see the flash would come off very easily actually with a scalpel. Just little bits around the edges there, because it's so fine that you're not having to do sort of a lot of sanding to get off that. Try and get the focus perfect. But you can see up underneath it's got detail as well. And they plop together via a peg in the middle. So that's where that blade is there. That's going straight into the peg in the center. And again, you just see a little bit of extra trim along the top there because I'm in so close. And some of the mold line there, that would take a very fine sanding with a very fine grade would just take that mold line off. But it's so fine if you were someone that wasn't too worried about that. Obviously, I think these are 3D designed. I'm sure they're 3D designed actually. But you can see the cleanup that someone's done after the 3D printing. You really can't see any, you know, those normal kind of stratification lines or whatever they're called, as the resolution of the printer leaves behind a ridge with every laydown of printing. But I'm sure they've not printed, you know, they wouldn't have been printed in nylon originally. And then these are obviously then cast in resin, so they make a master model, and you can see a bit more trim down the side there that very easy to take off again. So very nice little model. My only comment, you know, just by way of a review, would be this kind of gun here that has a kind of a nice sort of retro feel to it, as in kind of a slender gun, and you can imagine it recoiling as it fired, and it gives you that kind of manga-esque, slightly retro feel of recoil as it fired. At least that's what it's evoking for me. But the only thing is it's slightly bent down, and I have a few packs of these, and I tried to sort of recover it by sort of warming it a little bit and bending it up, and I found it just snapped off. I think personally that's probably because of the scaling. I imagine with models these days, what people do is they do a 28mm, then, well, mostly a 15mm of this kind of model, 15mm scale, and then they scale it down to 6mm, which is this, which you can just see how small it is. But actually, the problem is that when you scale down items like a gun like this, is it loses some of its width on there. Hi Reese, thanks for popping in. So yeah, so basically you get a slight potential for breakage, and I'm thinking I might actually cut it back a little bit and put a different top weapon on there, so it looks like it's got a kind of auto gun underneath plus some other kind of weapon on the top. And actually there's options for that in the packs that have come from Nuclear Shrimp. It's a 6mm scale Nuclear Shrimp Walker. So yeah, I'm just going through a few things that have arrived this week from Greece, where this came from. And if I show you here, get rid of the picture too. Yeah, they've got a Greek website called NS Games, Nuclear Shrimp Games. It's quite a mouthful saying Nuclear Shrimp over a lot. So that's what this is. It's a UEF Heavy Hulk battlesuit, 6mm, and they call it a wing because you get two in the pack. So yeah, and I'm just doing a close-up on it by putting this sort of very close-up camera that I've got here, you can see. So just kind of give you a measure of the size. So that's that one. And then there's lots more other exciting stuff in the pack that came. They have these, and I can't remember what these scaled for. These drones. I think they're 15mm drones, but actually, so they sort of scale alongside a 15mm trooper. But I'm going to have to hold one of those up to get it into frame. But the only thing I'd say about it is it's perfect for 6mm as well, as in they've got kind of thrusters on the back, and they could be a larger 6mm drone. You get a very close-up picture of my nails. I'm glad I've sort of slightly cleaned my hands today. Many washes. So very small. I'll get my blade out to inspect it and get it in and not stop moving around with it as well. That's it, I'm in focus. So you can see there's some minor cleanup to do between the fan blades on there, which is nothing. That will just come out with a touch of a blade. And just overall nice shape, quite flat. And you can see some sort of sensor array, or possibly, you know, smoke dropping grenades or something underneath too, plus a peg hole, so you can stick it on a peg as a flight base type thing as well. So again, nice that it's got underside detail in addition to the sort of top plate. One of the nicest sort of drones I've seen in this scale. I mean, I know the you get them from various different, I mean, even the Tau have drones, don't they, that you could scale down to work at 15mm and 6mm even. But those are nice. So that's a pack of 4 of those. Oh, look. So I didn't even know this. They have different weapons underneath. So that one's got a hugely, that would be really heavy, wouldn't it? A massive, like, LMG underslung. I expect those fans will be working overtime to keep that in the air. But yeah, that's quite interesting, isn't it? A drone with a machine gun, or a HMG, not an LMG, that's a HMG. Yeah, so they have them with the tiny pod delivery service of grenades or whatever you pop out of there, and then with the machine gun on the bottom, which is quite cool looking as well. I mean, it's fantasy, so you can get away with it being good fun. And that would, I say that now, look, now I've seen that machine gun underneath. These are obviously 15mm scale. Because what I did is I did a whole sort of purchase on the site and bought mostly 6mm models, because I was sort of collecting some 6mm at the moment, but then I also dived in, I say I've got like 6mm scale miniatures, which I'll pull out of the pack in a minute. But I'll put some 15mm bits and pieces in there at the same time, because obviously I collect 15mm models for the Grunts game. So let's pull this out and then hope I can kind of get some of it into focus. And this is a tank, and you get two in the pack again. But you get a huge array of weapon options. So even if you weren't going to necessarily focus on using all of the certain kinds of weapons in there, you're going to get some spares to use for other things. So if I align this so that it can actually be in focus. Yeah, so it looks like that Israeli style tank, doesn't it? Is that a Merkava or Minerva style tank with that flattened tapering? That's a good word, tapering, with that flattened and tapering top. So yeah, let's get in there with the blade, and I'll just remove the other one out of the way because I don't need to see both, but you do get two in a pack. And then I'll just jump to see what it's called on the website so that I know I'm talking about the right product. Here we go. Click the website back button. Get rid of the picture for now so I can look down and find the tank. I think it's right at the top of the page. I think it's their main tank, Bulldog. That's it. So again, they do this in 15mm as well, I believe. And that's the Bulldog, so you get two. You can see how the different weapon mounts are in there. So yeah, I'll go back to the desktop. Bring up the small camera again. So to get that perfectly into focus, and you can see, great detail on the trank tacks underneath there. Merkava, thanks Reese. Yeah, it has that Merkava root at top, but it actually doesn't have, the hull isn't like a Merkava. It has that sort of thing at the back here where it looks like the tracks are sort of going around an exposed thing. Possibly, but yes, very nice detailing. And if I just pull the turret section off, you can see it has a round disc that sockets into there. And close up, you can see you have one open one of the hatches and one that's sort of sealed. And then what looks like sort of smoke or grenade, mixed ordnance launchers from the side, some sort of mini local missile or something or other there, and just some interesting detail here. This was the most intriguing piece to me because I couldn't work out why the turret needed this kind of extra mounting here, but it probably serves two purposes, in that maybe in the mould it gives a bit more width to this section, so you end up feeling like you're getting a nice tapering, but from a mould perspective that it could be getting a bit small towards the fine at the front, so adding that in strengthens it. That's what I think. I'm going to live with that story that I'm making up as I go, which is, from a casting perspective, they've needed extra weight in the front, so put some detail on. And then you can see that where the gun goes in there, and then this is the array of bits and pieces. So turret wise, you get two, gun wise, you get two of each kind. So if I move the model out of the way, so we can see what's in there. So basically you've got a, like a rotary autocannon style, isn't it? And look at the fine detail on the front of that. That's really crisp. And then this big sort of slugger autocannon, something, maybe a plasma, maybe those could be accelerators on the side for some sort of Gauss gun or something. And then the classic sort of plasma shaped one. This is the one I was going to put on them, but I might mix it up a bit. I might, because I've got more than a pack of two of these, so you can see the plasma style. Hi Samuel, yeah, I'm streaming. Thanks for popping in. Yeah, I'm doing a kind of tech one today on some 6mm and 15mm miniatures from a company called Nuclear Shrimp Games, which I was just on their website there, which is ns-games.com. I ordered these a week ago. They've come from Greece, and very nice people to deal with in terms of fast shipping. Given how things are on lockdown around the world at the moment, they've arrived incredibly quickly. So yeah, thanks Samuel. So yeah, I've got I'm onto the plasma weapon there as I was working through these, and then at the end there's this sort of auto gun. Well, what would that be? An LMG, maybe a light machine gun. Move it into frame a bit more. Light machine gun. It's got some nice detail of the ammo feed on the side, and yeah, quite a nice sort of gun shape to it too. I think that goes in the. I'm going to trim that off because I think that goes in the. So just pop that off with my blade, and I think it might sit on the. There you go. So that sits neatly in there as a what are they called? They're called crows, aren't they? They're called something operated weapon system. And yeah, it's called a crow, but I can't remember the full acronym. But crows, I've heard him spoken in America, and I've watched him in films and things, because it's like a remotely, that's it, crow, remotely operated weapon system, crows. And I can't remember what the C's for. Common. Why do they call it common? But it is a crow. Crows. Common remotely operated weapon system. That's what that is on the top there. And then the weapon itself, actually look, there's more options. So quite a pack really. So what you're getting for your money with this are lots and lots of different customized options. It's almost, there you go, you've got a kind of again a machine gun with tiny little exhausts on the heat shroud there. And then these things, which I don't know what they are, but I think those are side mounts. So you've got that classic, they're doing in 40k where they put these weapons on the side of the vehicles as well, which is almost like a World War I style, isn't it? We don't see that on many modern vehicles, but you put these, you'd obviously glue that on the side of the tank to bring the tank back into frame. I can imagine that would rest on the side. So I'm going to take one off the sprue down here, cut it. I'm not being too careful because I can always tidy those up later. Yeah, so I better look at the picture on the website actually, because I can't remember where that will go. So if I leave the tank sort of in frame there and then bring up the desktop again and just have a look. Yeah, there you go. So look, I'm wiggling my mouse there and you can see they are side sponsons. Is that what you'd call them? And then you can see the detail on the little small machine gun in there, the smaller caliber, and then they've got the sort of main guns here. So actually these guys here are the kind of most traditional of the weapon. You can see it's actually got this sort of bolted ring going around it. So that's your standard auto cannon by the looks of it. And then obviously the plasma, or whatever energy type weapon you want to call it. Laser light machine gun, yeah. Yeah, well, it'd say it's big for 6mm, but it's actually quite small compared to some of the stuff out there these days. I haven't got any comparative things here without getting up and pulling apart lots of boxes, but that's a good note for me in the future. Is what I should do is get a Games Workshop epic tank or something out, and then always have it in the background for sort of. And this is what a Games Workshop 6mm looks like. We can sort of scale it, but there you go, very nice. So you get 2 in the pack. You get loads of weapon options, and even the side mounts are all different. So there's a tri-barrel, as they like to call them, to go on the side mount. Yeah, and I think these things, I don't really know what those are. Exhausts? Mortars? Let's have a look here, see if we can see it anywhere on the picture. there's these they're barrels on the back. They would look nice rusted up or something. Well, even though obviously modern sci-fi, they wouldn't necessarily be rusty, but it could be a low-tech planet or something, or a near future. I mean, they're kind of near future-y. And look at the little chains hanging off the back. Yeah, mortars or bombards. It's just where would you put them? Unless that's the gun. Ah, that is the main gun. So that's like really is a customizable little model, because you can make it a sort of bombard or whatever you want to call it. I'm not in a position to trim this down very well here, so this is going to be a mess. What I'm going to do is rest it on there, and then I'll get my, because what I haven't done is trim down the peg so that it would sit in the, oh, it's gone. I'll tell you what, if I do that, here we go. So a little bit of a view. So that dinky one on there would give it an interesting little profile. That's not really my taste, really. The sort of, it's almost like a Games Workshop kind of thing, isn't it? It's going back to Dark Age technology on a modern tank with a big old big bore weapon. That's what I'm looking for, the word. And then this is the in fact, I can mount that on the end of there too to get you a view of the full vehicle together with the thingamajig, with the plasma or something. I'm definitely going to mount a couple of these plasma style things on there. You can see that the peg is going to need some cleanup to fit into the tiny socket on the end there, but that won't take too long. But great design really, I think, from them, that they've gone, okay, let's build a main battle tank and let's give it just about every option under the sun to support you sort of buying one tank and saying, well, I'm going to have maybe a group of 3 with those rotary autocannons, or a group of 3 with standard autocannons, and maybe even the bombard type thing. I call it a bombard, but it's just a big bore thing, on some more to sort of mix it up a bit. So I'll pop those back in their bag. All these tiny little bits of resin would just go all over the place. My dog would then run away into the garden with me. She just loves small things she can chew on. So now I'm going to open down here, go back to the desktop. So I've got some infantry in a pack here, and you can see they come on the big old resin sprue. More resin on the sprue than there is on the models. But that's no problem. That's how you have to make these things. So size-wise, for me, they're just perfect, I think, 6mm size. Am I going in too close? I am. Let's get them out to the right distance. So there you go. So some cleanup needed, but you can see there's detail on the weapons. The weapons have individual small sort of rifle barrel. And let's look behind them. I probably could have better lighting here, but I'm making do. And small backpacks. So they've all got the same sort of stance, that's pose, which is fine. And then you've then got kneeling. It's quite difficult to get them in focus, but yeah, you can see it's not kneeling, it's more of a sort of, well, it's a different pose anyway. It's got more of a crouch, probably is the word, not kneeling, a crouch. Yeah, that's crouch. Magnet mounted weapons. Yeah, actually, Graham, that would be wild. Plasma ball launcher, yeah, that would work. Like those bug things from Starship Troopers that launches those sort of bolts of sort of globular plasma. But yeah, these have got a crouch. So there's 2 poses there, and then 3 poses, because then you get this. Oh, is that the same with the first one? No, the other ones were pointing, and these ones are not pointing. These ones are just a kind of straight up stance. Again, same backpack detail. Whoops. And are these different? Yeah, then there's a fourth look. Possibly even a 5th. I would be surprised if there's 5 different but there possibly are. Yeah, those are different. Or are they the same? Oh my goodness, this is like recognition nightmare. Are they the same model? No, they're slightly different. One's striding forward and the other one's crouching. So you get, in that pack, you literally get 5 different poses, and one of them being the kind of pointing guy. So if you were doing base of these, how many do you get in the pack? Let's have a look. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 different sprues and 5 different 6mm poses in there as well. Yes, Nate. Yeah, just looking at 6mm at the model at the moment. I bought a few packs because there seems to be an awful lot of good sort of ranges out there. So those are the nuclear shrimp, and let's have a look at the Raspberry Pi to get to the right place. Get rid of that Raspberry Pi, and I want to find out what those 6mm infantry are, because of course I ordered them and then you just forget because they're just tiny. I think it's Wraiths. No, it's those ones down there. Look, those are UEF infantry platoon, I think. Maybe not, because those have got some laying down guys in there. That's what they must be. That's what they are. They're the Tecton Order Wraith platoon. Gautier sound effect. So yeah, nice those are anyway. So it was probably worth zooming in on those anyway, just to get a view for what they look like up close. I think they're very nice. So great pack. And I say, if you're mounting 5 models per, I put them on circular bases, you're going to get a nice set out of that, because every model on the base is going to be a unique stance, which is interesting because normally in 6mm you quite often find they only do like 2 poses, don't they, or something. So they've put the time in on those. So that's those. I've got more of the same tanks, and then I've got some stuff which I've got no idea what it is, but I do have a 15mm version of their tank, which is well worth having a look at, as you can see coming out here. So we can now see those weapons on another scale for that sort of Merkava style. But you can see how interesting, isn't it, how these 3D models get resized. So we can go in close. Oh, you heard the Gauntlet sound effect. Yeah, that was me jumping stupidly, accidentally to the wrong screen, where you get like my face there, and then when I go back to the other screen on the button, it makes a noise, I think. Yeah, very nice. Again, some little cleanup needed along the side there, but not too bad. And probably going a bit closer so you can really see the detail. A couple of tank tracks stuck on the front. And yeah, that Merkava style turret going on there, which is some simple cleanup. And then you can see, as I mentioned on the other 6mm version of this, there's so many bits with this, as you can see down here. There's a lot of bits, but there's things like stowage in there. There's that same plasma sort of energy weapon. So that's not going to sit in there, is it? So there must be some kind of thing. Oh, and then you've got those barrels that were on the 6mm version that sits on the back. I can bring up the back in close up. So there, I don't know how they glue on. I'd have to look at the picture. But yeah, I imagine they kind of strap on there somehow to give you a look of a supply. So all I'm trying to do is find the bit that goes on the turret that I think it's probably that. Oh no, I saw the bit that goes on the turret. I've seen it. No, that's not it. You've got a frame to take the larger weapon on the top in there, so to speak. Although I haven't put that on properly. That's where it sort of sits in there, I think. And they also have these nice sort of guards as well that sit on them. And there's different guards. There it is. That's staring me right in the face. That is the piece that's the first part of the turret. And obviously it goes into there and it pops inside. You can see two holes inside ready to take it. I imagine you put it in from underneath. And then, supposing it's in there, because I can't put it in there, then you attach the peg extension on the front to finish that gun. And the same applies for any of the others that go on there. You've got the standard long barrel, and that's the lot. So, just leave you on the detail. Go back to the screen and have a look at the 15mm, because that's where it's from. 3D print mastering and casting is definitely the way forward. Yeah, it definitely is, Graham. There's loads of good stuff out there, and it's only going to get more, isn't it? And then probably, I don't know how long it's going to take, maybe 3 or 4 years more. We'll end up with being able to print them at home. And I know everybody prints them at home and at the moment, because it's a big rage to get a 3D model and print. But I think it's just a little bit awkward at the moment. Things like, the better quality the printer, the more hassles that come with it, because potentially you have to, clean the resin afterwards, and it's quite expensive and fiddly. And the machines sometimes need recalibrating. With the higher end you get, it's almost like it's not that kind of law of diminishing returns. But the more money you pay, the more technical investment you've made to maintain it going forward. That's what worries me the most. I've bought printers in the past, normal ink printers, and I've left them on the side and not used them for 6 months, and then the ink's dried up or something. I mean, but that was the old days. And I worry about that with 3D printing. And I have ordered some of the fantasy 3D printed models online, and I've dropped one just at desk height and the leg snapped off, so the resin isn't brilliant either. But there it is, and there you can see, okay, so the central section that has that on it, I'll get it out to show you. So it has a guard that sits on top of it as well, so the whole thing's going to sit flush inside there with that guard mount on top. So imagine that's why they've done that for the 6mm scale version. They're kind of replicating that, aren't they? And there you go, there's a 6mm versus 15mm, so you get a view of the difference in size there. Yeah, so I'll clear that out of the way, I think. Just to say the 15mm one's nice. It's big. There is a kind of a scale creep, isn't there? I mean, it works. It looks like a super heavy kind of tank more than it does, like just a main battle tank, because it's just massive. If you matched it up to some of the Ground Zero Games things, it would sort of dwarf them. But even GZG tanks and things are getting bigger and bigger. Everything's sort of stretching out to 18mm, I'd say. Not quite 20, but lots of things now are looking sort of 18. It's not a deliberate thing. It's just that, when you're doing a sci-fi model, obviously the scales are not as much of a worry. So this is 15mm, and this is like a tracked. I reckon this would work for 6mm as well. It's kind of like a robot thing. And again, they give you everything you want. You're not having to buy 3 packs or anything. You're getting a kind of a limited missile launcher, rotary autocannon. Yeah, and these are where, again, very big, really, I'd say. This is scaled at 15mm. I think you get away with this as a, you get away with this at 28mm as like a remote drone thing, wouldn't you? At 28mm, you get away with it at 6mm, even as a mini truck, well, like a mega truck thing in 6mm. Although it's probably looking. Oh, you could even put a 6mm model on the back of it there, sit them on the base. But it's made for 615. I put the turret facing the wrong way. Yeah, but it's nice, and again, sci-fi is sci-fi, so just because it looks a little bit chunkier than most things, it's just going to look fun on the table. Why go so ultra small that you can't see it? So since I've got that out, yeah, Graham, I'm exactly the same. I'm like, as you can see, I'm surrounded by wild technical gadgets all over the place, from everything from being able to sort of swap between everything here and live streaming that I do, and if I zoomed out here, you can see I've got various sort of gadgets and things that are all supporting my streaming. So I'm like ultra, I'm one of those stupid people that would jump on something when it's straight out and buy it just because I want to explore the technology almost as much as trying to find a use for it. But I do that. Obviously, I think I've got reasonable valued use out of stuff that I get. I like to use it rather than just play and forget it. But why haven't I bought a 3D printer? Everybody else is jumping on it. There's a lot of YouTube channels out there where someone just needs to put, I'm a 3D printer channel, and they're getting hundreds of thousands of views. It's like, there's a trend moving towards it, especially for things like printing out dungeon tiles, printing out 28mm fantasy models, and for sort of vehicles and things like this as well. So the market's there and it's growing. I'm just lagging behind, but I don't know why. Why am I lagging behind when I normally get into loads of these gadgets and things? I just want to feel that if I get it, it's nearly it's got over the first 4 or 5 years curve. I know it's probably been 10 years that the people have had the nylon stuff at home. And those nylon ones do have a lot of the resolution issues, unless you're building some rough looking rocky castle walls or something. But the proper resin bed stuff now is, you could spend probably four to 600 on one that's half decent, and then $1,000 or £1,000 plus, and you're in the realms of really, you don't even see a resolution mark on the model. It's not even worth considering, that there'll even be cleanup, because you just, whatever support struts are on it, you just pick them off and the model's perfect. But then you've got to wash the resin. It's soft and brittle unless you use some really special hard stuff. Everything's out there. So one day I'll have one. I'm 50 next year. So maybe there'll be a new product out in the new year that's a new printer, and I'll go, okay, present for 50-year-old Robin is a printer. But we'll see. The world could have, anything could have come by next year, couldn't it? It could be at war with China or anything weird like that results in supply issues of that kind of stuff. That's the kind of biggest weird concern of all these trade wars. I feel like it's going to impact us at some point, where miniatures or something are going to drop. Yeah, let others do the hard work. Yeah, as I say, if it gets easier work though to make the printers so that they're at when resin printers at home are at the point where ink printers were. Remember when ink printers first came out? HP had the OfficeJet ink printer, and they were still expensive. Like, I'm talking 1989, 1990, and the HP OfficeJets, and they had those little square cartridges that went in, and they were more like a small office. You wouldn't necessarily buy one at home unless you were loaded. It was before the colour ones came out, and they'd kind of then made that technology safe and easy to use, didn't they? As in, like, you no longer needed to fart about with lasers or those other kind of printers. I can't remember, line printers and dot matrix printers. And maybe that will come with the 3D printers. It'll get to the point where you just plug a cartridge in. You'd literally go down to PC World, you'd pick one up, you bring it home, and your cartridges cost a certain amount of money, and you think that's going to cost me 30p a print or something, instead of like £3 a print or whatever it is at the moment. So 15mm model here, which I'm just talking about, but you can see that level of detail. I particularly like the fact this is a one-piece model that has got material kind of holes in it, if you know what I mean. As in, it's got enough detail pumping out that you don't have to worry about the fact that it's had to be cast flat. That's usually a classic sort of metal issue, that sometimes models are cast in a flat way, kind of looking in a certain direction. And they're remarkably dynamic poses on these. I'd say again, these are heavily armoured, and heavily armoured 15mm like this, you can really get away with any scale. As in size, because you can stretch it and say, oh, actually they're so boosted that the guy inside is maybe 2 or 3 foot taller than he would be normally, and bulkier because he's got so much armor on, and you know, augmented musculoskeletal systems to be able to carry such heavy weaponry and backpack. But again, these are, as we said before, these are from bring it up the website. Yep, from the Nuclear Shrimp games, and this is in their 15mm range. And I don't know what these troops are called. So I'm not going to bother looking, but you can go and find them on the Nuclear Shrimp site, and you'll find them underneath their 15mm range. Come on, I'll scroll down, I might see them. No, I've gone back to another one of those walkers. Yeah, so really impressed with those for quality of detail. If I was a scale creep aficionado, I would say they are drifting up towards 18mm when you look at the size of the hand and things on there. But I think there's no problem with saying this is my powered armor. You know, it's obviously powered armor. Look how bulky it is, and you'll get away with that easily. You know, it's for me, that's kind of Infinity grade detailing on there, right the way down to the way the helmet has like tubes coming out. That will paint up supremely, I think, in 15mm. So yeah, pin wash down there to bring the details out. And again, just like their other stuff, there's every sort of pose you can imagine in that pack. So I'm going to give you a zoom in on those. I don't know how many different poses there are, but there's walkers, there's like a couple of each. So you've got a guy walking, you've got a forward pointing one, the normal traditional stance, a kind of slightly dynamic a crouch again, arm out. He must be, yeah, you get 2 arm out kind of squad leader types, all of this same quite nice looking assault rifle on there. So yeah, even in the future they recruit people to suit the role. Yeah, definitely. But really small people to fit inside a heavy armoured suit. So yeah, so I've given you a kind of a browse there of a few things. There's 1 or 2 things in here that I'd like to show off that I don't think I'm going to have time to go through, because I wouldn't do it justice because I don't know the shape of it really. And really, to put it together, see, there's the 15mm version. I'll cut it out. That's the 15mm version of the Mini Walker here. So you can just see the leap up in scale there, and you've got the feet. They're all exactly the same pieces really. And the main body, hull even. Yeah, so very nice detailing again, jumping up to the 15mm. And then you can see there's that weapon that I said in the 6mm, if you were right here at the early stage of the broadcast. That weapon on the 6mm scale on the left hand side where I'm tapping, that one's good, but on one of the other ones I had, it was a bit bent down, and I tried to recover it and it kind of snapped, even though I'd sort of warmed it in a bit of water. But I reckon you can probably tidy that up without it sort of cracking. I had an issue. I sort of went, okay, I'll warm it in some water, and then I prodded it to try and get it up there, and it snapped. But that's the big version, and you can see how in that scale you don't really, because it's got enough strength in the strut, You can see what it looks like. I just love that style because it gives you that impression of you're going to get some muzzle flare out the side and it's going to recoil into this system like that kind of tung 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 kind of thing. Bad sound effects by me, but yes, very nice in 15mm. Yeah, in fact, I should at some point show off some of my new. I've got lots of GZG that's been painted up, some walkers and bits and pieces which I can show off. Well, obviously, if you look at my channel, you'll see videos of me painting stuff on there. So, and then there's an Orky Brute thing. So again, I'm not one to jump out onto these Brute Orc stuff. I think it's in the 15mm world. There's a huge, requirement for that kind of Orky style vehicles, troops, and everything. And this looks like a World War I epic sort of scale. Not epic, but one of those really big artillery pieces from World War I. Obviously, it's an Orc device, and it has a couple of nice wheels at the front. I tell you what, I can put it together. If you're watching me over here, I am now. And that's also the sign of a good model to me. If you can get a resin model and then just nearly put it together without any glue, and they still fit, and you feel like you're getting somewhere with it, that's rather good, even though those bottom wheels are going to fall off, I think, when I present to the thing. And of course, I've put the one up there with its sprue coming off, so something else sticking. Oh, there's still a peg underneath, so that's ruining the look. But there you go, with a couple of wheels on one side, you can see kind of tractor style. They would rust. I mean, I love rusted stuff, so I don't know. I was like, oh, I don't really want orcs in space and things, but these, and they're so huge. I mean, that is 15mm, but it's massive. But that's nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, as I said, it's fantasy, so why not make the race of kind of orcish brutes be massive? You get that, in 32mm and 28mm, 25mm, even back in the day, it tended to be that all the models needed to be about the same size, didn't they? Because they were aiming for a certain production size, a certain weight of lead, and they might make an orc a foot taller. But when you're down to 15mm, you can make a giant of a race without worrying about it looking a bit out of place. So that's like some massive, muscular, ape-like brute aiming the gun, and then a guy loading the shell as well. Again, if you like orcs and stuff, they are really nicely detailed, and that sort of guy you can see has been built up, especially heavy-duty guy good at picking up the shells. And as with all the other nuclear shrimp range there, you can see that you get everything you need. You get a load of missiles, you get kind of the rear section of the... Looks like another weapon, doesn't it? I don't know where that will fix on. And then you've got some rear pieces that are obviously supports that stop it from bouncing back. I just think that would paint up so well with some rusting and stuff on there that I'm tempted to get it done, even though I haven't really got a brute faction or anything that to do. But it would just be so much fun doing that kind of weathering up some old artillery. Yeah, so that's a brute, and I've got that to give it a try. Just because I love the old style artillery on there, I want to give it a paint job as well. It's those sort of things that would be good to sort of put together. In fact, you could even leave it off you could leave the orcs off it, and it would just look like some kind of retro technology. If you're a fan of things like Traveller, you'll know. And I'm trying to convince some friends of mine that I do 15mm gaming with. It's very hard for some folks that don't spend a lot of time reading sci-fi and understanding the whole Traveller scene of the tech levels, and the fact that in a universe that people may have spread across for millennia, you're going to find backwater places where they've still even maybe got Vietnam era or even earlier era tanks because they were out of some kind of products and were able to pick up a design. and went to raged war with these things that were little more than sort of World War I era diesel vehicles, or maybe the planet has an abundance of oil, so they end up going for sort of diesel, petrochemical style vehicles, and maybe even lighter gravity, and they end up building larger and heavier armoured vehicles because of the light grav. Either way, there's no harm in having some retro tech, and that's what that's what I like in my games. I like to sort of have some fun there. I've got a friend called Paul Holden, and we did a war game show. I think we did Reading Warfare, or it was Colours, I can't remember, but we did a 6mm game, and it was alternative World War One. We had like Martians versus Germans, and we were trying to sort of thrash the Germans with these Martians in 6mm. I can't remember the models we used or even the rules. I think it was just stuff we made up at the time. But that's good fun to do that, sort of mix it up. I would never use a base like that for 15mm. That's the only thing I'd say. They've popped a nice base in there, but that really scales up the model to a larger size. I tend to just use like plastic discs and things, or a metal disc, to keep the scale down. So I will show this as a last thing, which is an Epic tracked 15mm, and you can see where the hull fits together. I'm hoping you're seeing that in the big frame there. And then on there, obviously every side area has its own track system, and then of course straight away I'm going, which side does that go on? There we go. So something, I'm just seeing how it fits on, and of course I'm not looking at the guide, I'm just popping it on and going, hang on, that doesn't fit, or that does fit. Oh, so this is really good as well, to take the time again. Someone's gone, I know what, I'll no, it can't go that side. They've gone, I know what, we won't just make this thing with 4 of the same track, we'll give it some really big, massive tracks on the back, and then, yeah, it must be like that, because the armour then sort of covers the... Yeah, of course I'm not going to glue it on or anything, so it's just trying to get it into maybe the near enough shape of what it would be. Yeah, so again, gone to the bother of, I'm sure I've got that track on the wrong way around, but gone to the bother of doing 2 different wheels, track sets on there, rather than just, you know, 4 of the same. Because again, that tends to be how people operate, isn't it, these days? You know, just general mass production theory. I'm going to do tracks. Okay, just do 4 track wheel things that look the same, because then I can just cast 4 of them. They'll all be the same. In fact, many companies wouldn't even do a left and right piece. They would just do one modular kind of track thing that happened to fit on both sides. But they've taken the time there to do the different tracks for the front and rear. So then I have the nicest looking turret affair that I've seen for a long time, and I think you need to put like a, what's that called, the cupola, that sits on first, and then the turret sits on top of it, doesn't it? I think you'd call it a cupola or cupola. I can't get it to fit because I need to trim it up first, but you can see that sits there and it will sit flush, and then you can put the turret on, and this turret is amazing. And that is probably one of the nicest things I've seen all night, even though all the models are nice, but just the snub-nosed detail on that and the profile of it tapering down to the front. Someone with some serious 3D design skills has put that together. And this just looks rugged, doesn't it? It just looks like something that's going to tear up the land as it works its way around. And then there's looks like there's a drone launch that came with it, so it has its own launchable drone support that comes with the vehicle. So I'm looking to see whether there's somewhere that would launch from. I imagine there is somewhere at the back or something it could fix on. I don't know. Anyway, there was that drone in the pack, and quite a nice little extra piece. Again, nice little trim detail in the fact that they've added the disc-like style to it. It kind of looks sharp. Take a pin wash well, as Graham was saying earlier.